What is going on, everyone? Another crazy news day for quantum computing, another crazy day in the stock market for quantum computer stocks. Today, Rigetti CEO came out and said, hey, we need to tamp down expectations a little bit here. So I want to get into that a little bit and do some price analysis. I was watching Rigetti move all day in TradingView, and I have some thoughts on price levels, and I think it's moving in a healthier way. So let's just get right into it. All right, so here it is. Let's get into the story. So Rigetti Computing CEO, after a 48% spike in stock price, we have to tamp down expectations. So the explosive move in Rigetti Computer stock has its CEO cautioning investors it will take time for the company to post sustainable sales growth and profits. And this is the CEO, particularly because of the hype that is going on in the quantum computing space and some erroneous statements which are being made. So he's referring to Jensen and Zuckerberg here, including by people in the industry. I love this response. We have to tamp down some expectations. Rigetti Computing CEO, Dr. Carney, told me on Yahoo Finance's Opening Bid podcast. Then he goes on to say, so I have to tell investors that it's still not the time to talk about sales and sales growth because we're still very much in the technology development mode. We have to get the technology perfected before we can start seeing real material difference in sales. So anytime you hear from a CEO of a company that you're interested in or investing in, for better or for worse, it's good that there's communication with the public. Carney pushed back on the company needing to raise more cash. Well, always look at what we could potentially do. So we never want to say we won't do something because things could change. But as today, we don't need to raise more money for the foreseeable future. And in Fireside Chat, he was saying the company can run for 4 years. So 4 years of runway with all the advances in the quantum space is a good position to be in, if you ask me. We are in the investment mode right now. We do have some sales, but that's mostly government contract type of opportunities. Even in the government contract space, we have bipartisan legislation essentially in the pipeline as we speak. $2.7 billion. So we have senators working on a $2.7 billion National Quantum Initiative Reauthorization Act, which is a bipartisan effort to maintain U.S. leadership in quantum technology. And I think Rigetti is in a space to compete for some of that. Assuming the timeline described earlier holds and we start seeing material sales 3 to 5 years from now, we certainly expect the company to start becoming cash flow break even around that time period, and beyond that, profitability will come along. Okay, so something refreshing in Wall Street stocks is when a CEO is just honest. Okay, so we can look at this a few different ways. Like, oh man, Rigetti isn't profitable. It's not going to be profitable for a couple of years. This sucks. Man, this is kind of a damper on the stock price and it's not going to soar. Well, I would make the argument that it's actually unhealthy for the stock to soar at this point in time. In fact, the price action from today was a lot more healthy, and we'll go into that in the next segment. Let's read this last part. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of the article. And my reaction is, this is bullish to me as a long-term investor, because now you have the CEO in 2 days. He finally responded directly. In the Fireside Chat, I don't think he responded directly to Jensen and Zuckerberg. He finally responded directly. So that needed to happen in the Fireside Chat, if you ask me, but it's fine. he did it now. Also, if you listen to the fireside chat, and I have a full analysis and video on my channel, if you actually listen to the whole thing, he talks a lot about scale and the modularity of his company. So the way that he's building Rigetti is to be a modular company that can serve quantum customers in the quantum space in different ways. What does that mean? You can take just the QPU. You can just use their cloud services. You can, when they get into app development, when they develop better and better hardware and chips, it's kind of like an a la carte approach. And he talked about the modularity when CUDA releases, when NVIDIA releases a CUDA quantum model. I hope I'm saying that right, that their hardware and software will be able to plug in right there. So I love the scale. I love the scaling being at the heart of their product roadmap. And Rigetti, to me, even though he's saying tamp down expectations, sure, yeah, the stock price doesn't need to go to the moon overnight. And financials might not look insane or amazing for a number of quarters, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot of inflow of investments, both from the retail investor, institutional investor. There's also going to be government money going into quantum. So I see this as an incredible 2 days for the Rigetti CEO. And let's get into price analysis. All right, let's get into some price analysis for Rigetti. It was an interesting day. Market, we open with volume, some nice green volume, also some red volume. So it's always good to pay attention to the RSI and volume. We're overbought in the morning and we see a little spike. We touch 1150 and then it seems to bonk its head a few times on 1150. I retraced a channel in the day as we sold off a little bit here and we were oversold. And then we hit a certain point, and this was probably around the time that Dr. Kulkarni had come out and said, investors chill out, basically is what he's saying. And then I really think retail and just kind of the sentiment is changing as more information is becoming available, as quantum computers are making headlines every day. My previous video, there were just some insane headlines. So I definitely encourage you to go watch that if you haven't seen it already. We see a really nice, one thing I like to do is just draw a channel in the day. And if that channel is broken, then I kind of start to get a little bit concerned about the daily price action. But since I'm watching these quantum stocks so closely, we had nice, just a steady climb. And then some consolidation. I drew in some key levels. I think 1150 will be a good number for Rigetti to climb over. There's definitely some resistance at that level. But then if we zoom out, where are we in the recovery if we look at the month? So Jensen's comments back here on the 8th, panic, fear, sell-off, misunderstanding. That's what it was. Misunderstanding. And also the conviction, right? Well, let's not even talk about conviction. It's not really healthy for a stock to go up 1,000% in a month, or whatever this increase was. And so there was potential. So there were a couple of days of consolidation here where it didn't really know which way it wanted to go. And then you have the massive national news, the dump, the second day of dumping, and then we're seeing this kind of nice recovery. So what do we make of all this? Well, I think sentiment has improved. I think that we are in a more balanced conversation. I think investors are generally informing themselves a little bit better on what is actually happening in the quantum computer space. And that's reflected in the price action. I would say that opening at 1150, hitting 1150, and then closing at 11 is much more healthy for Rigetti for its long-term price action than it opening at 11 and going to 20. That would have been another sort of bear trap, or bull trap, I would say. So definitely shifting sentiment. And also one thing to keep an eye on, and one thing I always like to look at, is what's happening in pre-market and post-market. So we can see in post-market, quantum is up across the board. It's crazy to see. We have Rigetti plus 5%, 4.94 in post-market, and all the other quantum stocks that I'm watching are doing well. So what do we make of all this? This was a first bull day in what felt like a year. We've been in such a weird bearish market. My heart goes out to all the people in California that lost their homes, their loved ones in the fire, their pets, cars, their livelihood. There's been, besides the fires, just a feeling of fear in the market. And this was really one of the first, okay, things are going to be okay. The economy is okay. And we got to see a couple of days now of what the quantum stocks would do in a bull market. So what happens if sentiment shifts? What happens if we flip back to a bear market? I think this week is looking really good. The banks are reporting great numbers, and the economy is looking really strong. The US is looking really strong. So there's not really a compelling reason right now for that to shift, but you never know. That's the thing with the market. So how do you prepare as an investor or someone interested in a stock like this? I would say you mentally prepare for anything to happen, and understand we're looking at the day charts, we're looking at 5-day charts here, but this is, to me, a long-term hold. So I'm doing the kind of technical analysis for, I'm sure the day traders and swing traders are enjoying this price action and recovery. I'm sure the shorts are having a bad time. I looked at the option chain earlier today, and it was a 2.25 calls to puts spread. That actually increased because at one point it was 4-to-1 calls to puts. So there still is short selling interest. So with any of these stocks, just be cautious. Don't put too much of your, with any investment that you make, you have to think about your personal risk tolerance, and you also have to do your own diligence. You have to look for answers. And down here, okay, when everyone was panicking, I was buying. I was buying a lot. I bought calls. I bought shares. I was like, hey, this is cheap. This is nice. Now I can average down my cost basis. Now, are we going to go back down to 6? Or are we going to go back down lower? If the headlines in the quantum space keep going, I mean, what would cause the price to fall off a cliff would be if Rigetti at the next earnings just completely missed everything, weren't even in the ballpark, burned like $500 million in cash and has nothing to show for it. That I don't think is going to happen. So the stability, 22.2% is actually a small move for Rigetti in the bigger picture. So just keep that in mind. These stocks move in sometimes unpredictable ways, and we have to kind of position ourselves in a long-term mindset and not worried about short-term price action. All right, that is a wrap for this video. If you've made it this far, you are probably just as interested in quantum computing as I am. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you all next time.